So much to celebrate.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No, it's just so wonderful to have a connection with all of you. I just spoke to Dave the other day, and there are so many new ideas that Drumeo is coming out with. As they always have been leaders of the drumming community, they've got some things planned for 2021 that are going to be pretty deep and serious for sure.
Whoa.
Tom, you got to say it. It's going to be
Huge.
It's gonna be huge.
That's great.
And with China, I was it was October of 1993 that I was invited by the Chinese government by way of Sabian Symbols and of course the great visionary of Bob Zildjian, who was the president of Sabian. And I went there with Dave McAllister, the great visionary of a senior vice president. We went to China not knowing what was happening, and China was really a closed country at that time. And to be invited, and of course to be an American to go there, there was some serious hoops that we had to travel to get there. And this was when China was really nowhere near as built up as we have it, as we know it now. So 27 years ago going there, the train ride from Hong Kong to Guangzhou, which is a city in the south, the train ride was 5 hours on a train track that was built like in the 1700s. It was like I was like in the Wild West. We're on the train and the train starts and this was the ride. This was the ride for 5 hours.
Oh my God.
It was, and you had to kind of hold on. It was like a roller coaster ride going to the next city. It was unbelievable. So as we got there, the first event was just, we had like 5,000 people at the first drum clinic. They all came in. And of course, as typical, I made a complete fool of myself. And I've told this story to Jim Toscano also.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Happy birthday, Tom!
Happy birthday, Tom.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
That's what we got to do before the end. We have to do a group sing.
Okay.
When I arrived in China in this first visit, I get there, and now I'm in China. There's 5,000 people in the audience. I am like this is overwhelming for a drum demonstration. Well, my translator was one of the editors and writers for their local magazine, so he understood English. So when I asked him, I said, "What is your name?" And he gave me this long Chinese name, like Jinan Wai, this long name. And I said, "Listen, that's too long. I'm never going to remember it. I'm going to call you George, like George Washington." When you hear the name George, you turn around and you look at me. He said, "Oh, very good." So we did that. So we're backstage. The people are energized. I'm looking through the curtain and I just see a sea of Chinese people out there, all excited and close, packed in tight. So I said to George, George, teach me how to say number one excellent in Chinese. I want to walk out and say, number one, excellent, yeah. He said, oh, very easy. He said, si ha da, si ha da. So I practiced, si ha da. I just kind of echoed what he said. He said, oh, very good. So he walks away, so I start practicing. Well, when I was practicing, I went, si ha da, si ha da, si ha da. I got this. Si ha da, I got this. I hear George now goes out first. There's two microphones. He introduces, and I hear his Chinese speaking. I know I'm going to come out when I hear my name, Dom Famularo. So he's speaking in Chinese. Dom Famularo. The crowd goes insane. I walk out to the stage to the microphone. I put the microphone in my face, and I look at this crowd, and I went, Si Hada. Nothing.
No.
Total silence. Total silence. So I'm thinking, the typical stupid American that I am, I'm thinking, they didn't hear me. Let me stick this microphone into the uvula of my freaking mouth and at the top of my lungs. So I get the mic and I go, see, whoa! And I made a move which I've never made since. I made this move. I went, see, come on, baby. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why. I just, at that moment, So George turns to me now, again, nothing from the crowd, and says, Mr. Dom, why you say that? So now I'm talking to George with 2 live microphones saying, George, what do you mean why did I say that? I'm trying to say number 1 excellent. He said, oh no, number 1 excellent is sihada. Let's go up. You said sihada, different phrase. So I said, well, George, what did I say? He said, your mother pregnant.
Oh.
I'm screaming, just to show you how stupid I am. I'm screaming to 5,000 Chinese people, your mother is pregnant. Yeah, bring it on.
Now I know why they call you the global ambassador.
That's right.
That's great.
That was day number 1 in my first visit to China. And for 27 years, I've gone back several times. And it's amazing the enthusiasm that's happening in China.
There's some amazing drummers coming out of China because like, Thomas Lang is always telling us about his travels and I was like, well, what about the food? You know, how do you, because I have a really sensitive stomach. He's like, I love it. You wouldn't believe it, the things I eat over there. And they're so happy that I eat these things. It's crazy.
It really, and what Thomas is doing, and I was the first one there, and when I went there, of course, they said, who else could we bring in? Well, I gave them a list of people. I said, you got to get Thomas Lang, you got to get Virgil Donati, you got to get Billy Cobham, all these different people. And all on top of that, in all of my travels, I remember the great lessons I took with the great Les DeMerle at the Cellar.
There he is.
At the Cellar in California. 1976, when I went out there, I walked up to Les. I said, Les, I want some lessons with you. And Les said, well, you know, we can schedule an hour. I said, I want more than an hour. We would book like 3 or 4 hours, and in between the lesson, we go and get lunch and come back and continue again.
Absolutely.
And you talk about a visionary. Les had a club called The Cellar in California. And I'd go there, and that is, believe it or not, in 1976 is where I met Jeff Porcaro. At The Cellar, Les, and we happened to meet there because Les would have all these different bands there. Do you remember you'd have the musicians from the Mothers of Invention?
Right, yeah.
That was band playing there.
Right, yeah. Well,
Les
fam, first of all, happy birthday, man. Happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday!
I'm teasing it. I'm teasing it.
Man, you're looking fabulous, my man, and you know, it's so cool to just be part of your celebration today with all these great musicians. John Gill, thanks for hooking this all up. And fam, I gotta tell you, fam, I've got to tell you real quick, fam, that when you came to the Cellar, can you hear me, guys? Okay.
I can. Beautiful.
Okay. When you first came to the Cellar, fam, first to work, you were doing those cruise ship gigs that, of course, later in my career, we really got into this. As a matter of fact, the last date before the virus broke out, I was on a 4-month jazz quartet contract with my band on Harmony of the Seas, which is the mega ship that Royal Caribbean does, you know.
Wow.
But in those days, I think it was Richie Iacona, Richie Scolo, and maybe Madeline Cole. You guys had your band, and when Fam would come into San Pedro, he would call and say, I want to book a lesson. And like he said, man, he'd come over, and, you know, it would be a hang. It would be we'd work seriously for several hours, but then we'd have lunch and we'd come back. And my band at that time, the Transfusion Band in the 70s, had Bunk Gardner from the Mothers of Invention. So all the great drummers like Ralph Humphrey and guys like that worked with Zappa would be there. Joe Porcaro and Jeff Porcaro would be there all the time. I did things with Carmine Appice there, Peter Erskine, Alex Acuna, Manolo Badrina, all the guys, you know. But fam, you've been part of the family, and not even to talk about our Long Island days, man. Book and all that, you know.
Well, those, if you can imagine, and again, it takes the vision to want to do something like that, but then the vision that everybody can have a dream. To put it into action the way Les put it into action, where he went and rented the place to have the studio, had the theater there, put these acts on going on. It was so incredible to meet all these great, and it was the hang at that time in the 70s. You went to the Cellar. And Les at the time, now meanwhile, Les is playing with Harry James, he's playing with Wayne Newton, he's doing these incredible huge gigs of playing. And I had heard him when Les played with these bands. It was not the Harry James band with Les DeMerle on drums. It was Les DeMerle and the Harry James band was supporting Les. The energy that Les gave
Oh man,
was
thank you.
in your face, and it lifted everybody up. It was incredible.
Thank you, man.
Incredible.
Listen. I need a good agent these days, man. So if you're into it, I'll give you a quarter of my salami sandwich, man. You know what I mean?
Hey, what you're doing now on Amelia Island with what Les does with his one fantastic, talented, and beautiful wife, Bonnie,
Yeah.
what they're doing is they are keeping jazz. Listen, jazz is an American created music. This is America's greatest export.
Yeah.
Jazz
Yeah.
for all these years. And to have someone like Les and Bonnie going out there and playing it, and of course, when they play it, they suck you into the magic of jazz because they're brilliant musicians, and they always surround themselves with great players all the time.
Thank you. Thanks so much, guys. Everybody that's in the session today for FAM, try to come to the Amelia Island Jazz Festival. I'm working very hard right now because of rescheduling everything. It's supposed to be October 4th to the 11th, and it will still be, but we're doing a few things virtually. And instead, I was going to bring in John Pizzarelli, the great jazz guitarist from New York, but we rescheduled him for next year. But I'm bringing in, I'm doing a salute to Louis Armstrong on one day with a gentleman that played the life of Louis Armstrong on Broadway named Longino Parsons. So we're still going to do part of it scaled down this year. And fam, if you're here, man, happy birthday. You're our guest right in the front row, man, you know.
If I can get down there. But you know, it's amazing, even using technology, what Jim Toscano does so well is he brings on his bands virtually, Les. So Les, I want you at some point to connect with Toscano.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
You guys make sure, if you can, Janine, if you can connect them together.
Sure.
I'll get you guys. Jim Toscano has set up not only my studio with all the video and audio, but he's set up probably 50 to 100 studios of drummers and musicians around the world.
Man, wow.
And he does these live sessions with musicians where they're playing and they're demonstrating on Zoom. People are connecting with it. JimToscano.com. Check it out. It is so incredible. So Toscano's at the cutting edge of this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll hook up for sure, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'm
fam.
helping out a
Thank
lot
you.
of guys lately, so yeah, give me a shout.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
so much.
Les, we've
Yes.
never met. I'm up here in this upper box.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, for somebody that has OCD like me, that's a nightmare. You go around straightening all those pictures, making sure that they're all straight every day. I mean,
I do. And I'll tell you that the trip too, Rich, is that my garage is converted into a drum studio, you know. So every time I'm out there, whether I'm doing a lesson or practicing, I've got 3 sets set up out there, and the walls vibrate a little bit. So then I've got to come in with a little, you know, like a letter opener, and go around and get everyone perfect, you know, and man, and you know, if I'll see Al Jarreau's face like halfway, and Tito Puente's upside down, and you know, Gene Krupa's looking at Buddy Rich with this weird look. Stuff is happening on those walls, man. You know, so I have to straighten out the argument. You know what I mean? Get everybody straight. You know.
yeah, man.
And look at this here now. Joe Bergamini joins us.
Yeah.
Joe.
Talk about another force in the drumming industry of what he has done and continues to do with his energy with the Sabian Education Network, connecting thousands of drum educators around the world, the recordings he's done, the teaching he's doing, and the editing he's done. This book on Liv DeVito, Bergamini edited that book.
Oh, man.
You all have to get the book Liberty. Yeah. It's phenomenal. And on top of all the different drum books that Joe and I have done together, what he's doing for Hudson Music, now they're working on a Jeff Porcaro book that Joe is going to edit.
Oh, beautiful,
Wow.
beautiful.
Very cool.
People that are at the freaking cutting edge. Joe, great to see you.
Is that more like a biography on Jeff, or
yes, it is. It's a biography. It was written by Robin Flans, who's a longtime friend of his. But Dom, thank you for that. We're here to celebrate you, though.
Yeah,
Dom.
We're here to celebrate you. I have to tell everybody about how I survived being your business partner and stuff like that.
But don't you guys think that, like, you know, this is Dom's, in a sense, it's a gift to himself, so he can celebrate himself a little bit.
Yeah.
All the positivity and energy. He had a passion, he had a skill set, he had a message, and to go around the world that many times, I know how he's affected my life, and to think that the amount of effort and time he put into me and how he's done that thousands and probably tens of thousands of times with people around the world. So Dom, you have a legacy, and we love you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I remember that call,
That's
Rich,
great.
I remember the call that Rich had made to me, and we started talking about in the beginning of the development of your career about just different ideas and what can be done. And I just heard in your voice, Rich, this desire to want to do something bigger and better. And when I hear that, if I can be a slight push to that energy, that really is a very, very powerful responsibility that I think we all have in the design of human nature. You know, one of my great inspirations in life has been Harry Chapin, the great Harry Chapin, who wrote the song Cats in the Cradle and Taxi. Harry Chapin was Jim Chapin's son.
Yeah.
And I got to meet Harry in the late 60s, early 70s, just as Harry's career was going on. And Harry had a line that he once told me over a cup of coffee in Huntington. He lived on Long Island, in Huntington, Long Island. And Harry once said to me, he said, you know, individuals really can't change the world, but individually we can bend it. That always kind of hit me, that I said, well, now my responsibility is every soul that I meet, I've got to try and assist in that bend. And that's really what all of you are doing, which is so powerful.
Yeah.
Well, Dom, it's inspired a lot by you. You know, you look at this panel right here, we have a broad spectrum of people. We have students to serious pros. We have people that are involved in media. We have, you know, the whole 9 yards. And at the center of it is you and the work that you've done. And I have a question about, you know, in the 50 years of teaching, what have you seen that has stayed the same and what has changed in terms of the drumming industry and the teaching profession in the last 50 years?
Well, I think what has stayed the same is when a teacher teaches quality education with a deep sense of passion and enthusiasm. Again, when you balance those two of being passionate and you're showing it in an enthusiastic way, those educators pull you in. I think that's the constant denominator that will remain steady even through the changes of technology. And with the changes of technology, what has been challenging is the amount of information that has overwhelmed people. They don't know where to turn.
Right.
And many times some of the information is not at a high standard. That's why I'm so amazed at what Drumeo does with Dave and Jared there. The standard of who they bring in is always at a high level that even to this day, they introduce people that might not have had a global reach. So when Dorothea was featured, all of a sudden now, everyone said, my gosh, who is this? And this is like all of a sudden, Dorothea, you're an overnight success.
She went viral before the virus.
12 million, over 12 million views. I think it's on that one now,
Oh,
Dorothy.
wow.
I had a laugh when I saw 12 million views. I said, this is so great for drumming. This is reaching people to open them up to see that there is some great quality education out there. So we have to really be responsible for what we choose to support on the internet and information that we choose to take in. Because once you take in misinformation, then you got to take that blackboard and you got to start erasing some information to replace it. It's really best to start with a fresh blackboard and just start with clean information on it. So I think the balance of being able to consistently have, you know, teaching from your heart and real honest passion and enthusiasm balanced with the overwhelming amount of information.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very
Hey
cool.
guys, I want to tell you guys a couple of things about Dom that you might not know. That just little stories that I have carried around. First of all, I was kidding.
You're not going to bring about my vasectomy, are you?
I promised I wouldn't tell anybody about the shrimp knife.
Good. Thank you so much. I wouldn't want that to get out. Thank you.
Yeah, Dom.
So, you know, actually, Dom's beyond being my teacher, and we have running the business together. We have so much fun. We have our meetings, and we're like a couple of Napoleons. You know, we think we're going to take over the world with our little drum book company, but it's super fun. But I used to take all of my, you know, when I was studying with Dom in my college years, my girlfriends would come to the lesson sometimes because I was always talking about my drum teacher, Dom, all the time. And he would be like, oh, she's nice, you know, and then there would be, you know, not many, but another one. And then finally, my future wife, Kim, love of my life, I brought her one time to a lesson, actually to a clinic that you and Lib were doing, that Dom and Lib were doing. And and I'll never forget his famous line to me after he met Kim and she went out to the car. He goes, "If you screw this one up, I'm going to kill you." and, and I think one of the things that I love the best that someone said to me about Dom was, again, my guitar player, Zach Risby, who is in the band Kansas now. I grew up playing with him, and actually he wrote the tracks on our book Arrival. And he was another one of those musicians that always heard me talking about Dom all the time. And he finally got to meet Dom, and we hung out. And Jim, yeah, of course, you played with Zach a ton, yeah. And when Dom left, I think he really summed it up. He said, I said, "Well, what did you think about Dom?" He's like, when you talk to him, it just seems like everything's going to work out just fine. Everything's going to be great. And he just walked away with that great feeling, and that's the feeling that Dom gives to everybody. I can remember going to the NAMM show when he first coached me to go to the NAMM show to build my career. And I thought, we'd hang out a lot. And then I went to the Sabian booth and realized that there was 100 people waiting to talk to him there. And I learned that he looked every one of them in the eye, and he spoke to them like they were the only person in the convention center.
Yeah.
And gave them their full attention, made them feel his focus and his care. And now he's doing it with my son. He's teaching my son, and I can see it happening there. So
that's so cool.
I just can't, whatever you want to call it, fate, the higher power that Dom became not only my guide and my friend and teacher, mentor, but also now for my son.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Even so great about it is Joe came to a clinic of mine that I was doing with Liberty DeVito in New Jersey with his dad Ron, who was just another great supporter of Joe. Joe, your dad and mom always were right behind you 100%, and rest in peace with your mom, man. Just a beautiful soul that supported him at what he did. So Joe comes to the clinic and sees it, and now later on I'm studying with him, and now he's editing Liberty's book. I mean, so we don't know where the future can deliver us. And that's why I think we have to realize that anything is possible if your heart's in the right place, and if you're positive and energized, if you can move forward every day, things will happen that you could probably have never imagined.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Gotta follow your
love
heart.
this. I'm looking at Jim right now, and I thought he dyed his hair platinum blonde, but it is just actually a mane of gray hair.
Great.
What happened, dude?
Let it go. One other thing
You should talk. You should talk there, Rich. You should talk.
No, it's just all of a sudden you miss one hair appointment, and next thing you know, like, what happened?
I thought it was having a 6-year-old that did that. My hair was not like this 6 years ago, but
Bobby, it looks great. I love it, man.
Guys, just be thankful you have hair.
Yeah, that's right.
And Jim Toscano would drive from Staten Island to come out here to Long Island to my studio. But it was so great that he would come out here and learn and push ideas, and I would just keep on giving him more information. And at one point he came in with a bunch of drum fill ideas, and he had these on just handwritten on paper. I said, "Jim, what is this?" He goes, "Well, I kind of like analyzing drum fills." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well," and he started showing me some examples of name drummers that he would analyze their fills. I said, "Jim, I think there's something here. Write more of these."
Yeah.
Next as he came back, he had more of them. We started looking at it. Then I contact my partner in crime, Bergamini. I said, "Joe," I said, "listen, Toscano's got some stuff here. This stuff is pretty good, and there's nothing out there like this in the depth of how he analyzed drum fills of great artists." He puts together his book, Filling in the Grooves. This is incredible to see this book that is out there now. And the book is selling well because it works. So I go back to the quality of education. There it is, Filling in the Grooves. Quality of education means that it's going to work. You're going to go through it and you're going to get results out of it. And Toscano now is promoting the book, doing his online stuff, and here it is now off and running. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's done also like the audio video in that. I have the download from Hudson. It's incredible. Looking at the fills, you hit a little button and there's Jim playing.
Oh, neat.
Thank you for putting that together, John. I really enjoyed that book now.
Well, thanks to Joe and Dom for helping me make this a reality, because this was a Sibelius file for a bunch of years. But they really helped me get this to the media and get it out and make it happen. And I had a great little book celebration
Yeah.
at a club in the city, and you guys came out and supported me. So 100%, it's really you guys that helped do it. So I appreciate it 100%.
That was great. That Jim is like so top notch. He put on at Rockwood Music Hall, famous club in New York. He put on a celebration with his band to release his book. We had the most pre-orders we've had for any of our books because Jim worked it the hardest, and then he invested in himself to have that show. And I don't know, Jim, I tried to talk him out of publishing the thing, but he insisted. So, you know.
His live streams on Monday and Thursday now on Facebook. Definitely check them out. Excellent.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I do a Monday night Filling in the Grooves live stream. So I do book from the material from the book every Monday at 7.
Very
cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Thanks, guys.
It's really amazing to see as this adventure continues. It's really heartwarming for myself to see as this all continues.
Yeah, yeah.
And I pulled out tons of inspiration from Les during those years. I was 23 years old in 1976, going by and hearing this influence of music. And when Les would play with his band Transfusion, the intensity in every note was, you know, as we say in New York, it was in your face. It was like this. It was like every note came out and hit you in your face, and you were like, you know, like being punched like in a Mike Tyson ring, you know. And every note had impact, and every note branded you. And when it brands you, that means it's with you. You can't get rid of it.
Thank you.
And that's kind of what happened. And all the musicians that you had there, Les. So, you know, this is the incredible concept of humanity, which is why we need to have a better understanding of humanity. Listen, during this pandemic and the times that we're living in, probably my biggest disappointment is humanity. But also my greatest hope is humanity.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the disappointment that I see in how some people speak and act and leadership that is just void of leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When that happens, I just say, my gosh. And the first thing I do is I contact my 3 boys and I apologize for the ignorance of what is happening in the world today.
Yeah.
And I just hope that I can leave them when I'm gone with enough support and tools that they will survive in the challenges that they will experience as they get older.
Right.
Yeah.
You're doing it every day, Tom. Every day, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm trying, you know, and I really, you know, I realize there's a biography that came out recently on Harry Chapin, and as I mentioned, you know, as an inspiration to me for many years, and the biography is out, and I'm very close with Harry's brother Tom Chapin, and I'm also close with Harry's daughter Jen Chapin, and now there's a proposal of an idea that I'm working with a wonderful drummer Brian Resnick, who was also an international lawyer based out of New York. And he's putting a donation into Why Hunger, which is the Harry Chapin Foundation of Food. Harry Chapin invested all of his time and effort into a World Food Commission, which he put together with President Carter. And it explains well that all food that is being raised is coming from this Harry Chapin energy that happened many years ago. And Harry, Ken Cragen, who was his manager, also managed Kenny Rogers. And it was through when Harry died at 38 years old on the Long Island Expressway, Ken Cragen then put together a concept to have Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie write a song that can raise money for hunger. And that's when they wrote We Are the World.
Oh, wow.
We Are the World, as in the words of Kenny Rogers in this biography, was really sparked and started by Harry Chapin. So this food hunger program that Harry started is still around. And this guy, when he called me, when Brian Resnick called me about this idea of he wants to donate money and get drummers together on video to play We Are the World and raise more money from that video, he said, Dom, I'm calling you first because I want you to help me organize it. And I said, do you realize, Brian, that you've called me on July 16th? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, this is the 39th anniversary of Harry Chapin's death. I think this would be a project that we should have ready for July 16th of next year for Harry's 40th anniversary to raise money you're donating and other money to go back into the food bank of Harry Chapin. So I'm working with that to try and raise more food. Cool. So these projects that I get involved with, it's time consuming, it is overwhelming, it's overpowering, but it is invigorating in every call. And I don't get a lot of sleep, but that's all right. Because, you know, I'm not wasting that time.
Yeah.
I'm using it hopefully for bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, man. Great.
You
Yeah.
didn't get a lot of sleep because you're at that age where you got to get up to go to the bathroom all
When you mention that, since the vasectomy, I got to get up every 11 minutes.
Toscano, we gotta figure out how to put a porta john in his studio.
I think I need medication, guys. I mean, I'm peeing every hour, man. This is
Oh my gosh.
does it get worse? You know, crazy.
It totally gets worse. And I'll tell you something. You start to learn your body goes through a whole nother change. And with this change, I just welcome it. The alternative would be me being dead. So I'll take whatever I'm being given. And by working with the Can-Do Musos, this is really what blows me away. By working with these Can-Do Musos, this organization of all disabled musicians, CanDoMusos.com, I ask you all to go to the website and just check it out, because each of their stories is a story of great uphill battle, of great personal challenge, but they are driven by passion because they love music so much, they'll play music. There's a drummer from Canada. I think his first name is Alvin. I can't remember it, but there's a video on the Can-Do Musos website that's called Yes, I Can. And it's a video that was put together by a television company in England that contacted me, and they wanted the names of these challenged musicians to play on this recording for this television commercial for the Special Olympics. So I give them all the names, they contact them, and they fly these people out. So when you go watch that 3-minute video on CanDoMusos.com of Yes, I Can, but Yes, I Can, it's athletes, musicians, and dancers that are all challenged and disabled. And they put this together. If you are not welling up in the middle of this commercial, you better get an injection of humanity, because it's so incredible. And on there are all these players. So when you hear their story, that they are able to succeed doing it, when Andrew Hewitt says, it takes me 45 minutes to get out of bed, get dressed, and get in my wheelchair.
Yeah.
We have to be blessed. When I turn and step up out of my bed, I think of it every morning.
Yeah. That's right.
I'm up. I'm ready.
I love that David Siegel, man. That David, we've done some clinics together, and he just gets up there and just plays a ripping samba, and he's just got a great attitude, and he's a great teacher,
and just these are great people. So they are driven. So there are no excuses. If it's lack of sleep or having to go to the bathroom 10 times in a night, I'll take it.
Dom, you have no idea. We're releasing a video today, and it's inspired by you. And there's a local drummer up here that when he was 17, he got in a workplace accident and his right arm was severed. So he was a right-handed drummer who just had his right arm cut off. And such an inspirational story. This guy decided, you know what, I'm not going to let this get to me. I'm going to take this as a challenge. And he was saying similar things that you teach. And we titled the video, What's Your Excuse? We brought him in, and he did a cover of Duality by Slipknot with one hand, and not just his right hand, it was his left arm. And it's so funny you say, what's your excuse? Because that's exactly what we titled the video. The message in the video is exactly what you teach. And we're releasing it on your birthday. If you go on, it'll probably be out in an hour or two from now, but I got to send it to you, man. It's just, the irony is crazy.